that every time I get a stripe or a belt, I can almost feel the instant shift in my mindset.
I think it's a real superpower.
I find myself in this present moment where I can be a bit more aware of my surroundings and what's happening.
The more you try and win, or the more you try and not experience the role or the flow of it, you take the learning away from the situation.
To chaos, but I feel like I can manage my emotions a lot better in the midst of a chaos.
Would you say, like, because obviously you're now you're purple belt, and I mean, I'm obviously still like at a white belt level, and I think that, I mean, even since I've first started with 4 stripes now to when I had no stripes, or when I first started, the lessons, or the kind of like the things that you take away from it are different almost every time. Was there like a different stage, or like different kind of parts of your journey, like from white belt to blue belt to purple belt? Has there been like a different kind of lesson that you've taken from each one of those that kind of encapsulates the whole experience of the color that you go through?
Yeah, 100%. I was saying to Martin, our coach in London from Carson Gracie, and I was saying to the coach here in Manchester that every time I get a stripe or a belt, I can almost feel the instant shift in my mindset. Like, I'm not only a purple belt in Jiu-Jitsu, I'm a purple belt in life. It almost feels like it. And the more you progress in Jiu-Jitsu, the more you progress in life, I feel like. It's just very interesting. I guess what I've learned from each belt, the one that really stuck, like, the pops to my head is when I received my blue belt. I became a lot calmer and a lot less spazzy. Like when I was a white belt, honestly, I was the spazziest white belt I've ever seen.
Fuck.
Literally, like I've never seen a spazzier belt than I was. I was just like, I just wanted like bros and
Why did you think you were just spazzing? Was it because you were spazzing out of like situations, or you just didn't want the guy to have like a
I just wanted to win. Every role was about winning for me.
really? Wow.
Yeah, and I feel quite um cringy talking about it because it's not that something that I'm proud of. Like I've injured some people as well when I was a white belt. Like I was doing leg locks and I didn't know how to do it, and then I just snapped someone's ankle. Like
Oh
I
my
didn't snap
god.
it, but like I didn't snap it, but like I injured them and they were like limping for a bit. I was like, oh shit, like it's just yeah, man. Like I was a different person when I was a white belt.
Oh, because like my first impression of you when I first met you, because you were a blue belt when I first met you, was like, this guy is the most calmest, chillest fucking dude I've ever met. Like so composed. Um, like even when I roll with you, like because I roll with you when you were sort of high level blue belt, I guess. The most under control, like complete opposite of what you're saying now.
Yeah,
Like I
it
would actually
definitely
say
evolved. The
actually
game definitely evolved.
like I would actually say it's almost on the edge of like scarily kind of in control, like how calm you are. So that's such a big difference.
It is a big difference because, and no one really told me that, but somehow I realized that by trying to win every single role, I'm not actually learning anything. And what I've noticed that every time I pause and start to think about my next move or what I'm going to do, um, I I find myself in this present moment where I can be a bit more aware of my surroundings and what's happening. And then somehow I clocked. I was like, no, this is actually the way how you do it. Like I have to think, not just like go, 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 go. Um and yeah, and that just evolved from when I received my blue belt. Even when I was like 4 stripe white belt, I became a bit calmer, but like first 2 or 3 stripes was just like mayhem, absolute chaos, man.
Wow, that's amazing. Um, so I never would have guessed that in a million years. Like, it's interesting because when I spoke to Martin, this was like, oh man, maybe like a month ago. He was like, the more you try and win, or the more you try and um, not experience the role or the flow of it, you're taking you take the learning away from the situation. So he was like, try and be more present in the role itself. Like, um, I mean, he says things so crazily. Like, if anyone's, I mean, we've got him on the pod, and like people can go back and just listen to him and see how wonderful he is in his own way. But um, I always think that, and I'm quite grateful because I've obviously had Charlie as well, who's a purple belt, kind of take me under his wing a bit and kind of um, show me kind of lessons quite closely, um, of like tapping early, not overextending yourself or spazzing, or just like um, taking away from it what you can. And I guess that's one of the lessons that I learned was straight away, which is like being okay with failure, because failure in jiu-jitsu is constant. So getting submitted or outpositioned or getting lost in a technique or failing the technique is like an immediate feedback. So um, you begin to see failure as not so much as like a stop sign, but actually more like a signpost. So every single time that I've failed in a role, it's like, fuck, why did he, how did he get that? How did he get to that point? Um, I remember, what was it? One of the guys that we were training with, Carlos, who's really good, he um, did a baseball bat choke. And afterwards, I was like, "How? What is that choke? Never seen it before." But it caught me out because I was too far over on his half guard, and he was able to just get that straight away. And I was like, "Fuck!" So I've almost got to be playing this game where I've got to be careful of that, keep mindful of that, and play top half guard a completely different way. Um, and I think that transitions into life so much. Like, I think the first thing to be okay with failure is such a key part of it. Um, and that was also another thing, was when I first came into that jiu-jitsu gym and Charlie's already a higher belt, and bearing in mind as brothers we fought all the time, like all the time, and I was normally the predominant winner throughout our entire childhood. Like, if we got in fights at school, I was the one that protected him, or if we were fighting at home or scrapping at home, I was that one that kind of. But then going into his realm and getting schooled by him over and over and over and over again, I can't lie. There's been a couple of times where it's been like super spicy, just from an ego point of view, where I'm like, "Fuck this, man!" Like, um, so there's been a couple, like, not spazzy moments, but I think just kind of heated moments. Um, but I've had to take that failure and be like, just one day, one day.
I write down as well on my when I was preparing for this episode. The more you fail, the better you get. And I remember when I was driving uh, back home with Martin, because we used to live very close, and on Fridays I used to just leave my bike in the gym, because on Saturday I just come in the morning. So I just used to leave my bike in the gym and then drive back with Martin. And I remember he said one thing that really struck with me. He said the reason I'm a black belt and you, I think at that time I was a blue belt. It's like the reason I'm a black belt and you're a blue belt is only because I tapped more times than you did. And that really struck me, because I realized that, yeah, like he's obviously he's much better than I am, but that's the only reason, because he was doing that for longer. And I think up until I started doing jiu-jitsu, I always had this thing that people who are good at what they do, they are just like born this way. And I used to, as a kid especially, I used to see these people on the telly, like athletes or singers, celebrities, dancers, like just people on the telly. And I used to always think that they are just born this way. Like I'm, as a um, humble, simple person, I can't achieve this because I wasn't born this way. Like I have to do something else. Um, but then only through jiu-jitsu, it was almost ingrained in me that, like in jiu-jitsu, the failure isn't necessary. It's required if you want to get better, and if you want to like get better in the long term, you have to be consistent. And that's where the phrase came from Martin, that the reason I'm I'm a black belt and you're a blue belt is just because I tapped more times than you did. So he failed more times than I did. That's the only gap that separates us.
I think it's really cool because it's not like he uses the phrase of like, oh, I submitted more people than you have, and that's why I'm a black belt. It's the direct thing, which is no, I've just failed more times than you have, and I think there's such a misconception with failure, and that no one wants to fail because, or people are scared of it because they, I mean, I feel it as well. Everyone does. It's because having that sort of like loss is, you don't want to, it affects the ego. It makes you feel like you're not good enough. But I think once you change that mindset, it's like, no, that's the part of the process in order to get good at things. And even when you're a black belt, you'll still be tapping. It doesn't mean that you won't tap when you're a black belt. Of course you will. But you're looking at that like immediate feedback. So it's like stacking up all those losses, stacking up all those failures. It's never a failure because it's not a loss, it's a lesson. And that's something that's so immediate with jiu-jitsu, that's so brilliant, is like you immediately see it as a lesson, not so much as a loss, because you just get back up and you just go into the role again, and then you're like, I'm not going to let that happen again. So I think that for those that are listening to this that want to start jiu-jitsu, or for those that take away from jiu-jitsu, I think that's the one thing that people will all agree on, is like failure is a part of that process in order to get better. Like you will tap. There's no way that professional MMA fighters or professional jiu-jitsu, or even Gordon Ryan, like coming up and becoming a pro, that he didn't tap as he was a professional. Of course not. Like that's all a part of the process in order to get good. And it's like, do you ever hear about Michael Jordan? I think he calculated it. I might have to type this in. I'm going to completely butcher the statistic, but he was like, he missed a point guard shot, or missed a point shot from like the however many thousands of times, in order to be able to get it zoned in. So he was like, I've actually missed more shots on the hoop than I've actually made. So it's so cool when you think about it like that, because you're like, oh yeah, failure is actually a fucking part of it. It's a good thing.
It's an attempt.
Yeah, and I think that's all you can do. I also feel like with it being like a failure, I think that's kind of leads into, for me, which was another point, is obviously resilience and showing up even when you're tired or mentally worn down, or it's not like you're winning every roll, but you keep returning over and over and over again. You, like, there's been some days I've walked into that gym and got my fucking ass whooped and being like, fucking hell, I thought I was getting good, but now I just feel like I'm shit. How did I let that happen? Yeah, how did I let that happen? And it's not like an ego thing. It's I guess you learn mentally and physically to endure the discomfort and to kind of push through those plateaux. Like I'm not a blue belt, but I have heard that you get the blue belt blues, and I just wanted to ask, like, what's your experience on having an immediate growth? Because I'm still very young in my journey, but I imagine that you go through this process of like loads of growth because you're taking all the information on, and then I imagine you plateau short term. But if you zoom out, it's still you're still on an upward trajectory. But I imagine there's like this sort of consolidation period where you just feel like, because that's why people drop out of blue belt, right? Um,
Yeah, like it's like everything, right? When you start doing it, there's so much information coming to your way that like it's exciting and it's very interesting to learn. But once you become a blue belt, purple belt, there's still a lot to learn, and you'll never get to a point where you've learned everything in jiu-jitsu. But it definitely that information uh, f- flow of the information kind of narrows down a bit, so you don't get as much excitement anymore. I feel, at least that's for me. Um, so yeah, I would say that like it goes. It feels like you go you. It feels like you're stagnant, but then as you said, when you zoom out, yeah, I'd like to roll with myself now when I was a blue belt. I think it would be very interesting to see how different it is.
what is it now that you sort of like in your roles? Do you, because obviously you're so competent, you're in the shapes that you make, and you're establishing game. Is it more that you're like, okay, if I go for this pass, then he's going to do this. So you're sort of predicting the outcome now.
Yeah, I mean it's more like it's a lot of muscle memory now as well. So it, like it goes automatic. But what I've noticed that I try a lot of things in the moment. So sometimes I just pull out the thing that I've never seen it before, but it's just like being creative. I think was is really important in your roles, like, especially when you
That's
drilling in
beautiful,
the
man.
gym. When you're drilling in the gym or like rolling, it's not being afraid of trying random shit because you can find something. And mate, like the amount of times that I found something that was like I even got surprised. Like like people were like, "What was that?" I was like, "I don't even know." Like I just tried shit, and that's the thing. I feel creativity is when you learn so much. I say so much. I didn't learn that much jiu-jitsu, but when you're a purple blue belt, I feel you have enough information to try new things because you like the main submissions and the main moves like passing the guard, escaping the guard, and all the triangles, armbars, and from there, from these scrambles, from these positions, you can think and try different things that maybe suits your game. Like yeah,
Mm. That's really cool. I think being creative in your roles, that's like really lovely thing because it still keeps it really playful. Um,
yeah, absolutely,
and
yeah,
like the nice thing I like as well is you open up to interpretation. Like obviously your partner is always going to be different, so it's always going to feel different. So the 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 thing that you see, let's say Martin, for example, perform on someone, and then you do the drill, the conclusion at the end to how you got there might be a little bit different. Or you try something a little bit different. You're like, let me try this like X guard here, or let me instead of going to like a armbar or taking the back, I can go to like a mount from here or something, or I can go to isolating the arm or whatever it might be. It's really cool when you see people around on the mats kind of coming to their own conclusions on things, because
yeah.
that's what makes it so fucking interesting. It's like,
Well, that's another perfect example of that jiu-jitsu is a mirror to your life almost. Like in life as well, you're learning things, and then based on that information that you have, you're making your own decisions.
that's really fucking cool.
And this is exactly jiu-jitsu.
Mic
Like
drop.
you,
Shit.
yeah, this is exactly jiu-jitsu. Like you, you're learning the drills. You do the sparring sessions, and then based on these roles and sparring sessions, you become creative and trying to trying to do things that suit your own game, and you can only find your own game by repetition and doing a lot of like roles and sparring sessions and so on.
What would you say your game is now?
The same uh like it was when I became a blue belt, I think. So okay, it changed a little bit now because I changed gyms, but I feel like when I was training in London, I was always playing half guards and like just playing from the bottom. But now that I joined this new gym, there's a lot more wrestling involved. So I do. The game is very similar to what I've used to do, but I've also incorporated like wrestling um, movements as well. So even when I'm on the ground, I'm trying to like flip the person and get on top. And if I'm on the bottom, I'm very what's the word? I'm very comfortable of attacking as well, not just like getting on top again. So I think a bit evolved a bit, but I'm still like maintaining the same kind of base. What about you? What's your kind of game? Do you know?
Yeah, it's hard because I think where I am in my journey at the moment is going from an attacking position to a defending position, and then just controlling the scramble where I can. Um, I like to play if I'm in bottom half guard. Um, there's quite a lot of I like performing like deep half guard sweeps from there. Um, yeah, it's weird. It's weird because like some stuff you just try from like ages ago, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna try and give that a go. Um, but yeah, I'd say, I mean, Martin's game, I think in that gym a lot is half guard.
Yeah, so a lot of people playing half guard from that gym, like 70% probably.
I would say I do like I want to try more octopus guard because I think octopus guard can translate to a lot of things. Um, but it's funny, it's like even rolling with you, like it's really cool because obviously you've experienced a different gym and transitioning to nogi and wrestling. I remember this, I think it was earlier this year or even last year, you were like, I feel like I've fallen back in love with jiu-jitsu again because I'm doing lots of nogi and it feels
Yeah.
like really quick, and I'm doing lots of wrestling and takedowns, or um, like I can get people in darces from when they take the back. So it's just, yeah, it's nice to also know that you're taking different things from different gyms, and that's all a part of the jiu-jitsu experience, isn't it? It's like,
Well, then again, that transforms into your own life as well. Like I feel like jiu-jitsu is such a mirror to your life and to life philosophy in general, because um, when you are comfortable in one environment, let's just pick my own example. So I was Lithuanian, I was living in Lithuania, I was very comfortable there, but I decided to move out to England and experience different things, and that I think experiencing different things, like when you're going on holiday, trying new culture, that gives you um, like a life buzz. You start to value your life a bit more, and I feel there's the same with when you're changing gyms. So I was in Martin's gym for 6 years probably.
yeah, you're such a big part of it.
Yeah, and I moved to Manchester, and I'm not saying that I've got bored of jiu-jitsu, but it just became very stagnant. And when I went to Manchester and I tried nogi, I've never done nogi before. I tried wrestling. I've done done wrestling for like 10 sessions. I didn't really like it, and that was the feeling. It was like, oh man, like it feels like I'm falling in love with jiu-jitsu again because I'm trying these different things, and it's the same in life. Like when you try different things, you get more spice in the life from the life, I guess. So everything that I do in life is very very related to what I did in jiu-jitsu, and that on that point as well. I remember I was speaking to Martin, and he said every person that is here in the on these mats, like the way they roll, I can almost see what they're going through in their life, because their game represents the type of um, so, sorry, the game of how they roll represents what they're going through in their life. So if he's very aggressive and trying to like dominate, then he's probably going through like some rough patches maybe, and he wants to like unleash that energy. If he's very calm, then he's very like secure with himself. And do you know what I mean? Like it's very interesting when you look from that kind of perspective.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think when you're um, so much of it is like instinctual, right? So when you've got someone that's on top of you in full mount with their vines in and is trying to fucking put their fist in your throat and you're just reacting instinctually, I think it's a really raw form to see someone in. Like when you see someone like really trying to get out of a situation because they're essentially being attacked or someone's trying to kill you, I think it's a really vulnerable place to be. And I think it does show the kind of level of emotion or emotional intelligence that you have, how much control you feel like you're in. Um, and that was like one of the things that I put as well, which was learning being comfortable in in such an uncomfortable situation and then making a decision on it. Um, I think there's so many. I mean, obviously, as you know, like so many positions, both mentally and physically, where you're like, "This is fucking horrible," and controlling that panic. One of the best books I ever read. I think they're turning it into a film. Was "Breathe" by Hicks and Gracie,
Mm.
and he talks about being able to breathe in an uncomfortable situation and assessing and then making a decision under pressure will 100% give you such a more dominant position over your opponent. Because I think the ability to stay composed in something that's chaotic carries over far beyond the mats. And like one of the stories that happened to him was he was surfing in Brazil. Um, I think there's a little bit of a delay, but I think it will sort itself out. But he was surfing in Brazil and he got caught by a rip current and that took him all the way out. And normally people will react to that by trying to swim back to shore, but obviously with the current they can't swim back, so they end up tiring themselves out, and that's how people drown or surfers drown through rip currents. So what you need to do is you need to swim parallel um, to the shore and get yourself out of the current, and then you can start coming back in. And it's a really scary position to be in because all of a sudden you see the land get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and you're being taken way out to sea. And that's where people panic and lose their lives. And I think when he was in that position where he thought he was going to die, he just breathed and made a calm decision under pressure, and that carried over to his roles, which allowed him to perform like even better. I mean, even down to Navy SEALs, like where they're breaching let's say like a door, and they've got someone shooting at them from the other side, or someone might have a suicide vest on the other side, and then they've got to make a decision because all of a sudden they might have like be ambushed from, I don't know, Al Qaeda or whatever it is. Like if you listen to those guys on podcasts, they'll say the training that they went through in Bud's training was so uncomfortable when they're going through Hell Week is so they can mentally make a logical decision whilst being in the most horrendous situation possible. And I think that is such a superpower because anything that comes in life that's uncomfortable, and you will be met with an uncomfortable situation, if you can calm yourself down and then make a decision based on what you have around you that's allowed you to go through the chaos, I think that's a real thing that can help you through anything.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I even wrote down this stay calm under pressure, and one of the um, biggest lessons I'd say I learned that from jiu-jitsu, that, as I mentioned just earlier in the podcast, that I was the spazziest white belt in the gym, and probably the spazziest white belt I've ever seen in my life. Um, but that was because I couldn't be calm under pressure. That was like I was very um, like if I'm in the chaos, like I just want to get out of it, or like I want to try to overcome that by being more chaotic maybe. But that's what jiu-jitsu helped me to learn to breathe, to stay in the uncomfortable situation, and just be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. Um, and yeah, that's one of the biggest lessons. And I feel like when people who never done martial arts, never been in like uncomfortable situations in their lives, like purposely, they really struggle to stay calm under pressure. Like especially at work, like if they have some sort of a meeting with the boss or whatever, like they very nervous. And don't get me wrong, like I still get nervous. It's not like I'm bulletproof to chaos, but I feel like I can uh, manage my emotions a lot better in the midst of a chaos.
I think it's a real superpower, and I think I think it's why it's so good for men to do as well, especially because I think there's a lot of the time where it can get, I mean, for both male and female, but interestingly, I think that men can be met with like the idea that maybe they could be met with more physical um, stress, or met with more sort of like uncomfortable situations where it could be a need for something physical. So being able to have that awareness um, to still be able to make a decision when things could get really uncomfortable, I think is a really, because when you've got adrenaline pumping and you've got sort of like, and you're focused on something and you can't really see anything around you. That's what's so interesting, is like trying to observe the role from outside yourself a little bit and trying to see the surroundings. Like that's why it's quite interesting when you, if it's like a crowded mat, and even just having the awareness of the people rolling around you, showing that you've got awareness for your surroundings, even though you're still not trying to let this guy pass, but you're also trying to make sure and he doesn't hit his head or
Yeah, yeah,
against the clash with someone else. It's being so okay enough that you're getting, I don't know, even if the guy's on top of you and trying to choke you or taking your back or whatever, that you're so okay with that happening that you're still watching your surroundings. I think I think that honestly is like a real fucking superpower to have, and that's something that really drew me in straight away. Was like, holy fuck, like if I can be that level of comfortable when I've got a big fucking sweaty dude trying to choke me out, then yeah, I think that's a really good transition to life. Like you were saying, like jiu-jitsu has so much transitions over to your everyday life. I think that's a really important thing.
yeah. The next um, lesson I wrote down on the research is that there is no end to life. Um, like there, whatever you do, there is no finish line. I guess it depends, obviously, in what you believe, but some people believe that death is the end. Some people believe that death is the beginning of your life. So no matter what you believe, I feel like jiu-jitsu also transforms into that very much, because like in jiu-jitsu there is no finish line. No matter if you do jiu-jitsu for 50, 60 years, there is still a lot to learn. There is still moves to learn, and uh, it's one of these things that you can't complete jiu-jitsu. Like there is no finish line in that, and I feel it's the same with life. Like you can get better at everything that you do. You can become a better writer, you can become a better podcaster, you can become a better mom, dad, son, brother, partner. Um, and I feel like jiu-jitsu really teaches you that. Like just to, again, it goes back to every time I get a stripe or belt, it shifts that mindset that I not only become better at jiu-jitsu, I become a better person overall in general. Um, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's really beautifully put. I think that it's one of those things that I don't think you ever can complete it. Um, I feel it's. I think it's got more like. For me personally, I think there's more of there's a spiritual feeling with jujitsu,
Yeah, definitely.
and I think that it's having this like maybe it's this sort of flow type feeling or this sense of understanding, but it's almost like you kind of disconnect from reality in itself and you're totally in your wider brain, whether so it's not totally just conscious thinking, but it's also subconscious thinking. And I think that that translates to this sort of like soul searching mentality where I think it does actually add something to your soul. And like if we're going to get really spiritual about it, let's say okay, after you die and you say okay, well, what did I take from this life that I live? I think that the lessons that you can learn from jiu-jitsu, like the actual meaning or spiritual kind of flow state, learning about yourself, learning about your true understanding of self, I think that that can really translate into something that you can actually take away with you, maybe beyond this physical fucking space.
Mm.
Um, so if you look at like, I know you and I watched the Egg Theory, right? Um, where you're going through this, who knows, you might get reincarnated into someone else or something, but you kind of have this thing that you're giving back to the divine or something back to your soul, so you can sort of, I don't know, achieve an echelon of like success, not success, but like more like understanding or awareness. I'm not sure how to like completely put it, but and I might be sounding crazy here, but I think honestly, the feeling that you get, and I can also see how it can translate into maybe surfers as well, because I had that feeling when I've been on a surfboard in the sea waiting for that wave, and you're so in that moment when you are on that wave that you're not really thinking about anything else, but you're totally in connection with yourself. It's the same feeling. It's this kind of euphoric moment. And Martin kind of said it as well. Kind of like if you think about when he had that connection on the bus, when he kind of disconnected from the servers itself, like how he talks. I asked him this question where I was like, do you think that's kind of why jiu-jitsu took something, because you're still looking for that moment and jiu-jitsu kind of gives you that? And his kind of where he's at in his level is it's so subconscious now that it's it's almost kind of like, I don't know how he put it, but the way he kind of, at least how I interpreted it was, um, he's kind of reached that point where he's kind of almost disconnecting completely when he's in those roles. And I think that that is something that I think can happen when you keep doing something over and over and over again that allows you to be really present and full. It's kind of like a meditation, like
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Buddhist monk that just meditates. You will slowly reach that point where you really can uh, understand things that might not necessarily be present or immediate when you first start.
On the meditation side of things, I do believe that jiu-jitsu is meditation.
Totally agree.
There were so many days in the past where I was going through like shit days, and After like a rough day, I just go jiu-jitsu, and for those 2 hours I just completely disconnect, as you said, because in the role you can't really think about anything else when you're getting choked out, or you have to like defend your arm, and you are completely in that moment. And I feel that's why I really loved about jiu-jitsu, that it helps me to disconnect from just life in general. There's sometimes, like, don't get me wrong, like I still get these shitty days, but having something that you can completely immerse yourself into and not think about what happened 2 or 3 hours ago, or even a day ago, is really really important, because that just gives you a different perspective on what's going on in general. And um and then and after every session, I remember I used to finish it, you change, and then you get out, and it's like, all my worries are gone. Daniel Myers put that really well. One of my friends, he does MMA now. Yeah, he said, when I go to the gym, all my worries are gone, and that's really really true. Obviously, that has to do something with endorphins and that, but like, it's just, that you just get that more positive outlook on life in general.
For sure. I was having a really shit day on Friday. Um, like just everything was kind of going wrong. It was kind of a massive fail day for me. Um, and I went to jiu-jitsu, and I was actually late to jiu-jitsu, so I was kind of putting it off as well. I was like, oh man, did it. As soon as I walked out of that gym, I was like, I've just reset my life. And it really is that. It really does feel like a reset for me.
Is an amazing gym, man. Is
It's
an
an
amazing.
amazing gym for sure. Um, and I think that there's the people in that gym and the space that Martin's created is definitely is that. Um, but yeah, there's that moment where you kind of walk out of that gym where you're like, oh, I feel really glad. Charlie said this to me once. Uh, he was like, any day with jiu-jitsu is a good day.
He's obsessed with that.
Oh mate, so obsessed. But it allowed me to think about one of my other points, which was gratitude for being there and experiencing the unique connection with the body. So every time I'm stepping on the mat, I'm reminded that this is actually a gift to me.
Beautiful.
Sorry, can you still hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, cool. It's just saying reconnecting on my thing for some reason. But um, yeah, just
Nope.
every time that you step on the mat, you're reminded that it's a gift and a chance to be happy and also healthy. I think having that sense of gratitude and the ability to move um, with others also on their path, it really creates a community that is a really nice privilege to be a part of.
How long you been training jiu-jitsu now for?
Like a year and 3 months, I think, now, consistently.
Do you wish you had started
Mate,
earlier?
I wish I started at like 7. I really do.
Yeah, man. There's always that you want to start
Like
earlier.
I was lucky
Um.
because my dad taught martial arts, so I had this kind of
Mhm.
understanding for martial arts, and I was always fascinated by martial arts. Charlie more so, I think. Um, Charlie really wanted to be kind of like Bruce Lee. He was obsessed with Bruce Lee films. Um, like Charlie through and through is a full-on martial artist. Um, and I think that with my dad teaching, he always used to say to me and Charlie growing up as kids, he was always like, always be aware of your surroundings. If that's one thing that you can learn about martial arts, it's not that you're learning to hurt someone, it's you're learning to be aware of yourself and the people around you. And um, that's one thing that you should take from martial arts. It's not like, yeah, obviously the self-defense aspect of it, but he kind of really instilled about not having ego and wanting to be disciplined with it. I remember some days that we would do lessons with him, I didn't want to do it, and he was like, no, you're committed to doing this. So I think there was a bit of discipline there for us, but really he was kind of hammering about, you're not trying to win over anybody, you're just trying to have that emotional maturity about yourself.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely, man, that martial arts by far gave me the biggest learning curve I've ever received in my life, and it still does. So you learn so much about yourself and life in general, I'd say. What would you say is the biggest lesson you took from jiu-jitsu and martial arts?